These are a bunch of my friends. I'd like to share a little bit about what we do and how it shapes our community, because I think it transcends skateboarding. We share a kind of common language of our own devising, which is where we begin. If I were to write down a bunch of these tricks, it'd look a lot like that. If you had a little bit of chemistry, you might recognize a few of the others. The way we combine movements imposes a sort of syntax or protocol based upon the physics of what's going on. You're adding momentums. Well, the nomenclature of physics was derived by the same foundations. Today, one kid can text another across the world, name of a trick, and regardless of their native tongue, they completely understand what's going on. We created that together. Okay, so that's a half cab impossible late front foot flip. It's kind of a clunky name, and as it may imply, it's built of smaller movements called executive motor functions, where the ingrain is similar to drawing out a flip book, where an enormous amount of hours and detail goes into it, until eventually, by the time you're done with a flick of a thumb or a foot, out comes fluid motion in this automatic way. Create bigger, harder tricks, as you've just seen. All you do is you tumble through whatever your process is. It's something like this. You tumble around and flick through those books until you finally can find pages that match and splice them together for this larger movement, which sort of executes in a rhythmic sense of beat. A lot of this was developed back in the early 80s in something called freestyle.
Getting second to him was like getting first. Nobody deserved to ever take his spot.
Then that's when the rumors flew that he was practicing 9 hours a day. And we're going, 9 hours a day, how's that possible?
When we would go on tour, he would just go off 2 in the morning. We'd, arrive at the hotel. I'm going skating.
Okay, that was indulgent, I understand, but there are a couple of real reasons. First, all those hours of repetition for contest runs, again and again and again, they militated against my progression. While contests are still important, they have their place, they were largely superseded when video started to take hold because it was more dimensional in its representation of what we could do. Well, next point worth mentioning is my whole King of the Mountain thing kind of came crashing down because freestyle itself was being superseded by this fast evolving new kind of skating, which you've seen, called street skating. Now for me, it was like waking up after, it emerged fast, like after, a summer or so, to find that what you've done, all you put your heart into, is now fairly irrelevant. And worse than that, it's associated with some kind of backwardsness. They retired me. The guys on tour, they got me a 25 and retired t-shirt. They took away my pro model, which is your bread and butter. It's financial, it's real. As hard as it was to adjust, it forced me to adapt to, again, a kind of new, broader way, more dimensional in this representation, again, of what we could do. And while I had to let a lot of it go, never to be used again, which sucked, what I had done was so perfected that once I made the jump, it actually gave me a kind of distinction that wasn't accessible in the same way. Back in the early 90s, late 80s, guys started to apply these more technical tricks on the urban environment around them, the native environment. Stairs, ledges, full pipes, everything. It's fair game. It's continual usage of your imagination to think, how can that be skatable? Combined with this creative way of stretching what you have, right? to fit these little yin-yang fitting pearls of context meeting context. Well, you gather them up, put them in a video. It's more expressive of who you are. We've been doing that for 25 years. This is the nature of what we do. We think it's quite artful. The authorities, on the other hand, think differently. The rotten truth is there is a rogue quality to what we do. I guess it starts a little bit with a daily dose of trespassing. This tends to tint the lens through which we see the world, hues that are... How do we get around that? We have a lot in common with the hacking community in a lot of ways. In a very real way, we're hacking the environment in the sense that we are using it in ways it was never intended to be used and creating something in the process and then passing it around within our tight community upon which they can build and we all share and rise together. These are some of the most creative and driven people I have ever known. And the longer I'm around them, the more hardened I become in the conviction. The greatest obstacle to creativity, precipitating something new, is breaking through this barrier of disbelief. That can be seen in a lot of ways. Garden variety one that you've been exposed to is we film, we publish it. Well, sometimes within months, weeks, days. Some so-called friend will send you a link of some rotten kid in Transylvania, and he's doing your trick. Everything it took, you had, and he's doing it. And the insult to injury part is he's not even that good, but he has enough. This kind of belief is rarer than talent, and the combination of the two is present in all these guys I've been showing you. That makes you special. No matter how many times you practice that trick, you go up and stand up on that ledge and you look down and see how deadly that potentially is. No, it really is. And fear can take hold and wipes everything away. If you learn anything being around these guys, it's whatever you do, don't think about it too much. The flip side of that is if you just go for it without thinking about it, you're asking for it and you're going to get it. Your number will come up. This bats home the dynamic nature of balance that permeates all that we do, which is a cognitive awareness and understanding of the physical parameters behind all of what we do, whether it's a center over a base or the distance he's looking at, whatever it is. That conjoined with a knowing, a visceral knowing, an intuition of what is your range of recovery, and then an intimacy with its edges, because the edges is what gives you the edge. And on top of that, a honed agility and nimbleness within it all to stay up. This factors into fear management, risk assessment, and of course the tricks themselves. Balance. All these makes you see they take hours, if not days. Most of what we do, by far, is fall. And that shapes us proportionately. The best skaters are said to be the best fallers. You can see how easy they are with it. And this trickles into the entire community. I mean, today, most companies are owned or operated, at least in the crucial junctures, by pro skaters. So when you sign the dotted line contract, both sides understand you're going to be limping around on crutches part of the duration. There will be times then you are not coming back. This factors into our company dealings. All that we do. This is up close and personal with risk and consequence and how to get out of it and how to handle yourself. Again, permeates all we do. And I think has a lot to do with how quickly we evolve. This may come as a surprise to you. Skating can be hard on your body. In my case, I had so much scar tissue in my back leg that it was yanking the femur into the socket 15 times a day on good days, grinding. Cold days, walking more than 50 feet. Had to take a break. Go to the East Coast, Doc takes a bunch of shots. He describes this process. They put you to sleep, and it sounded an awful lot like a boat crank. They tie it to smaller joints, and they ratchet it up until it breaks the adhesions. And what's tying you down? I talked to a stuntman who'd had it done to his knee. What a mess. I opted for the little plastic tool he had. He described myofascial release. You can poke yourself, loosen up the fascia, give yourself some movement. Maybe if you're tough, you can pull a little scar tissue. Man, I take that. He tells me with his eyes what he wouldn't say with his words, that I was done. So I come home, and after the first 1,000 hours of this little tool digging it in, I think, you know what? I'm going to take this further. So I found screwdrivers, and I started taping the head so it wouldn't break the skin. I would get in deeper. And then, you know what's insane? Is fire hydrants. They have these knobs, and you can stick it in, and you can get leverage, and pull, and the scar tissue, it actually, you feel it going around the bone, and you can feel it stretch and stretch and stretch until it just breaks like dried gum. And it's an ugly process. You vomit. After about 3 years of this, 13 days out of 14, up to 3-4 hours a day or more. Finally, I'm up in the valley on a cold night. I figured out a better way to get leverage because I was too weak. I could hang upside down the wheel well of my car, my truck, and pull on the frame. So I'm screaming, pulling, until finally there's this thud. I've broken a dozen bones. Maybe you've broken a few. You know, that kind of heat feeling you get that rises. A little vomit comes out, like the nausea. Fingers and collarbones and ribs, they break like pencils. This was like a tree branch. So I'm hanging upside down. I pull myself out. My head hit my hand, and there's snot and tears. Once the numbness went away, I got up. And for the first time in years, it worked like a ball and socket again, not the whole stick shift thing. And I could move. Not only did this give me freedom, it gave me a sense of direction. Look at this. We are sophisticated puppets. There's a little stick man inside of a flesh suit. Now, all these movements, thousands of them, the tissues, the fascia, muscles, little strings, the levers inside them that make us move. Movements themselves orient them so they move over the bones and adjust in such a way to optimize their leverages for those movements by those movements. So if what you do is directional, then the somatic infrastructure through which you have encoded all these executive motor functions is now shaped and optimized for that direction at the expense of the other direction. Or what happens if what you do is now so highly evolved, you guys see the distances and how technical, that part of what you use to differentiate yourself, to distinguish yourself, is, hey, do it backwards. Well, that means the further along down the track you are, the more of this shaping you've taken, and the less able you are to adapt and to make, there's a physical barrier. Look at this. You don't need to know what native stance, left foot forward is regular, right foot forward is goofy. You don't need to know what native stance these guys are, who they are. You don't need to see the backgrounds. Imagine their silhouettes. Guy A on top is mid-ollie. Switch and regular, backwards, forwards. Guy B on bottom, same thing, mid-landing. Look at him. What do you notice? You don't need to know anything. Guys on the left are going backwards. It's written all over their body. Well, what if you could, by some medieval means involving screwdrivers, you could reorient the flesh over the bones so that this should look like a mirror image, mirror images, right? Take away the physical barrier, and now you have new leverages to work with. This is real. Watch. This is older footage right now. Look, I'm regular. Left foot forward. Forward, backwards. Forward, backwards. Look at the locking of the hips. Very distinctive. Backwards. After this trick, the work started. This is switch, sort of. Backwards, back, sort of backwards, looseness. Forwards, forwards. Where did backwards go? This is just all over the place. This would be inaccessible without the work. A switch trick cannot be done switch. Man, a friend of mine says, hey, Rod, you got a trick that we can do a little project. So we were together, we released this on social media, and I don't know, a lot of feedback pretty quick. And people were arguing on, what do you call that? Lots of them. Well, the board itself is a fakie laser. That's what's going on. It's definitively a fakie laser. Problem is, the upper body, the leverages that generate it have nothing to do with fakie. Backwards. It is visually self-contradictory. And through this fracturing of the nomenclature, a whole little range of tricks grows out that defy even being named. To me, that's beautiful. I mean, look, I'm 48 years old. How far do I expect to take that? I don't know. I'll take it somewhere. But that's not the point. Look, I held the title for over 11 years, defended it 35 out of 36 contests, whatever. The first few were cool. But then the expectation to win weighed heavy like a tombstone. You get in this turtled up protective position. There is no more winning, there's only not losing. Then something dawns me from the vantage point that is so painfully common. That getting what you wanted or thought you wanted, whether fame, whatever, can quench the fire that gets you there unless you replace what drives you with something more permanent in its intangibility. So I'm bordering sounding preachy now. I'll peel back. My point is that I recognize there's a very, very special audience. If there's anything I can share with you, that there is nothing of greater intrinsic value than to create something new for the sake of it and watch it disperse through your community and see where they take it. Because that in turn makes you part of what they do. And that gives you more permanence you could ever ask for. It gives you belonging, more belonging than I could have ever dreamed or accomplished on my own. Thank you for listening to me.